Welcome to the Ricksican Show. I am Rick Beer, your host,
That he is.
and we will see how things go today. There's been a lot of news popping off here recently, and so figure we jump in and share that with you guys. Um, I went to that new Indian
I
restaurant,
saw your post on that, man. I
Aroma
didn't even get an invite.
Cuisine.
It's messed up.
And instead of buying like one dish and another person buys this, we bought like four. I was like, I got to try the variety. I love Indian food. In fact, in when I was in China, we went to this Nepalese restaurant, which is like seemed like very similar to Indian food, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I think Nepal's slightly smoother tasting than the Indian food, but it's just a lot of rich flavors and spice. So, like, if you have a chance to try the new Indian restaurant in town,
What are they called again? What's their name?
it's Aroma Indian Cuisine.
Aroma Indian Cuisine.
Yeah, but a lot of Indian restaurants that I've been to are all pretty good. They take a lot of pride in what they do and the variety of spices and
I
stuff.
do like the spice levels I read about, because
Yeah.
the good ones do that.
Yeah, so curry is just means blend of spices. So a lot of times we think curry is like a specific flavor. There's a variety of them. Some are sweet, some are whatever, but they are rich
Yeah.
flavors. But definitely supporting this new little restaurant that we got coming in, and it's good. If you like that thing, it's good. I know some people are like, nope, not for me. I get it. But I had goat and I had lamb.
Say there was bone. What do you mean by there was bone in the goat?
Yeah, so what to me it seemed like, it's probably frozen or pretty chilled, and they run it through a bandsaw. They cut it into pieces, and there were pieces of bone in it. In the United States, we're fairly a boneless country, and so when people eat things like that, people want wings without, without bones,
Boneless
chicken
goat
nuggets.
wings.
Like we have so much stuff without bones, but overseas, many are surprised that, like, you know, even when they dice up chicken, it's like, did you just put this in a blender and it's got bones? Sometimes we get that. We are spoiled here in the United States, but it had bones in there, so I had to, kind of wiggle some out as you're eating it. So,
Yeah, it's normal
and that was
for goat.
with the goat. Um, I didn't have any bones in any of the other foods, so and that might just be how they get it, you know,
Yeah.
sliced and diced and whatnot. So, for some people, that is like they don't do it, you know.
One thing I didn't see on your list, and I'm sure it's relative to Rick's here. I didn't see anything about the Kansas City Chiefs winning yesterday.
Yeah,
What does Rick's have planned for Super Bowl? And there's like one more playoff game, right?
that's it.
That's it.
I think it's the Chiefs and the Jets.
Cheats in the
You're
Jets.
asking me questions I'm not.
Well, you own a bar. I just figured you would have a. When's your Super Bowl
I
party
think it's
down
the
here?
Chiefs. I'd have to Google it to pay attention, but I did hear the Chiefs won,
Yeah,
and
down to the wire.
we do have some friends that are huge Chief fans, so that'll be.
It's cool for me because I've actually toured what Arrowhead Stadium. Is it still called Arrowhead? I don't think it is. But that's cool that they won. Are you doing? My question though is that you doing something at Rick's for Super Bowl?
Oh yeah.
How's that work? Super Bowl Sunday. What time do you open?
Um, well, I'll just have to see what the times are. So the honest truth is, I'm a terrible sports fan. I'm a doer, and I'll be out playing, but I don't spend a lot of time watching. So having a bar, yes, you have to know these things, and my staff usually handles it for me.
Yeah, okay,
But
okay, makes sense.
I'm like, I don't even know what time Super Bowl is, but when we find out, we'll post that.
All right, well, it'll be probably the next Rixican show. We'll have those details as well too,
Oh,
because we want you to come into Rick's.
is it a 1 o'clock? Is it a
Usually it's about 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock show?
Almost my whole life it's been about that time.
Yeah. So yes, I'm not prepared to talk about the Super Bowl.
I'm just staying up to date, keeping people coming in your doors. Sunday, February 9th, the Super Bowl. It's going to be played in New Orleans, Kansas City Chiefs, and the Eagles. It'll
Well,
be 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. So 3:30 our time. So I imagine somewhere around 3 she'll be having people in
Yeah,
here too.
we'll probably open the doors at 2:30,
Okay.
and we'll have food and whatever prizes and whatnot.
Nice, nice.
Typical. I've been to New Orleans once after Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah.
So that was a tangent, right? That was a crazy time in my life. Um,
How old were you anyway?
I was 28,
Oh wow, young.
9. So Hurricane Katrina hit, and I get this phone call from some guy out there from Texas, and he says, "Hey,
Yeah.
I was a roofing contractor at the time. He's like, hey, doing we're going out there, we're tarping roofs. Do you have any workers? We need workers." And so I was like, well, let me see. So I get a bunch of workers, and we head out there, and it was madness. It is crazy working in a disaster zone.
Yeah.
And I was living in California at the time, and we're out in New Orleans. Like, I'm way like there's no home base for me. That's a few hours away. I'm a fish out of water out there. And so we're living in this tent city, and it's rough. It's a bunch of contractors, and FEMA had some shower thing. They're like, whoa, whoa, you can't use that. I'm like, well, you're supposed to shower at FEMA, I got this nice, trailer shower thing. And they're like, no, you can't shower here. It's like, we're like, you know,
Stinky.
sponge bathing it all the time. Yeah, uh, we only ate because the Red Cross was bringing food. I mean, it was like a wild, wild time. So one night, a guy gets stabbed in the night,
Oh,
and the next day they like shut the whole place down and kick everybody out. Now you got to remember, there's like 250, 300 people in this tent city that are all in there working, tarping roofs and hauling trash. And they welded like the dump trucks. They would like weld it as high as it can go. They drop the back dump ramp and weld that out. I mean, they were just it was all by like the cubic yard.
yeah.
They were just it was crazy. They're over. Everything was like overweight, but they had work to do to fix this situation that was going
Who was the president then?
on.
Was it Obama? It was, huh?
I think it was before then. Probably Bush.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
But it was wild. And so I do have opinions about FEMA and things. And I was like, yeah, I was frustrated with them most of the time. And out on the street, they have these word contractors, and they hire these guys. And, you know, then those contractors hire a contractor, and they hire a contractor. So by the time it gets to the little guy, like me or you,
Yeah.
and I'm coming into this tent city, and I want to know the lay of the land. So I'm like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, yeah, I tarp roofs. And I was like, oh, yeah, is that looking out for you? You getting paid? They're like, I haven't been paid for months. And I was like, whoa. I was like, I got to figure this out, because if I can't pay my guys, you know, I'm an unalive man. I mean, you can only go, they've got needs and families and things to take care of too. They took a huge risk coming out. And I'm looking at my guy going, hey, you promised something, and I'm a little concerned. But anyway, and if one contractor, I mean, it's like 10 contractors in line just delegating things out and getting paid. It's too, it's almost too much.
Yeah.
It's just you just need like one mothership, and like, oh, here's your area, here's your area. Oh, you stink at your area. Let's bring a new contractor in. But it, it's just it's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh, Bing Slayer said that it was George W. was the president then. Thank you, Bing Slayer or Bling Slayer, for pointing that out. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And also, just so you know, as Slayer's figured out, our chat was open. Yeah, we caught that. He was the president. Thanks for being in the chat. That's what I was going to talk about next. Our chat is open in all platforms. So if you're on YouTube, Facebook, all of the platforms we're on, X, feel free to, if you have a question for the Ricksican, I'll relay it to him. And like, follow, subscribe, and share, please, and thank you.
Yeah.
As Rick would like to give you a shout out special to Bling Slayer, right, Rick?
Slayer, thank you. I also got a little live feed going on TikTok too as well. That's not on our main streaming system. We still need to add it to the system, but So you'll just see me live. All right. So one of the problems we have in our society is we react to everything, and we react fast before the water has settled, before things have leveled out, before we have more information to see how the other side reacts. And a great example of this is this Colombia, the country Colombia,
Yeah.
and Trump shipping the immigrants over there. Now, I don't care what you believe, Democrat, Republican, left and right. I always say this: we are the peasants, we are the slaves arguing. It's true.
You're not lying.
That's what we are. And so we're busy, at the bottom, whining about stuff. And I just want you to remember there's a bigger play going on. And I call the real political party is the globalists and the populists, right? What's been in office for the last 30 years have been globalists. Bush, Obama, Clinton, Biden, those are globalists.
Yeah.
Trump is a populist. Populists have been taking some control over the years, Brexit and what's going on in Europe. Populists are coming in to office and making some changes. So when you look at the battle between, Trump and the globalists, now you know why.
Yeah.
So don't care if you like Trump or not. It's just that is the game and how it's played. And I'll throw it out there all the time: globalism versus populism. But people don't get it. And I just keep shouting it, and hopefully people can level up their view from the government perspective. It's not anything different than in your own household. Mom and dad, one's a globalist, one's a populist, and they're busy duking it out, right? And one sometimes has more power than the other. Husband does, or the wife does, whoever wears the pants in your family or skirt, I don't care. That is the play. Then the children can sit down below going, I need that for dinner. It's the same thing.
Yes.
It's the same thing. And yes, you can manipulate your parents and you can do all these wonderful things, but at the end of the day, you don't have access to their bank account. You don't have access to whatever. And they bend the knee and buy you macaroni and cheese, whatever to make you happy. That is the game.
Yep.
If you want to get more complicated for those that have a higher perspective, the game is the game of chess.
Yes.
And we'll save this for another time, but the game of chess is the game the elite play. The king and queen are you. Then you have a bishop, right? The Vatican Church. And then you have the knight, which is the money, the Federal Reserve, and they run this and that. And then they have, is it the rook, the castle, right? That is London. And in front of them, they got to separate what they do. And you got all the pawns, and you try to move the pawns across the board. You get to the other side. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You level up. And then there's opposition, and there's masculine, feminine in it, right? One side is this, one side is that. The game they play is chess. And if you walk into an elite's house, their flooring is a checkerboard. They teach their children, they remind this is the game, this is how it's played. Anyway, it's crazy.
It's an important game to know.
I wish I knew more about it. I just know the concept. But that is the game that they play. And we're busy we're the kids arguing at the bottom. I hate to call us slaves, but I'm like, it's like that. We're the peasants fighting. So I always try to separate myself from the little left right thing and try to look from above down.
Yes.
And see a different perspective.
10,000 foot view.
So we got this immigration thing. And I've said this before. Immigration is a funny thing. When the government writes a check to the United States, they have a formula. Number of people times taxes divided by 4 years. Here is your budget, Mr. President. Here is your budget, Mr. Whatever. Now, granted, you can add natural resources and other things, but that is the basic equation, right? Yeah. Where's your algebra at? That they do. So when the United States has open borders and they bring in 11 million people, now, granted, they may not be on your state's registry, but if they give them a document and are giving them some type of funding, they are
Collateral
collateral. Yeah, they've moved into our system, you know.
assets.
Yeah, they're paying sales tax. Their children will pay taxes, and they can say, "Hey, look, we brought 11 million new taxpayers into the system, and they're going to have kids or whatever." Now Trump's messing with that a little bit, but in terms of government funding, yeah, uh, the individual is an asset to produce taxes. So, with that being said, it's interesting to watch what's happening. So Colombia received like one shipment of immigrants, and then they had two more military planes flying, and the president of Colombia is like, "Whoa, stop! We're not taking them. Don't come in. You're not allowed in our country. I'm shutting that down." Um, so President Trump reacted. He responded. So you don't want to take your own citizens back? They were here illegally. We're spending millions of dollars to send them back to you. We're going to tariff you 25%. And if you don't like that and conform, shortly after that, we're going to tariff you 50%. And a bunch of people reacted, right? They're like, "Oh my gosh, Trump's ruining the country. Trump's this, Trump's that, whatever. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't, maybe it's both."
Yeah.
you know, and people reacted. And then hours later, the president of Colombia is like, uh, "I'm going to send my presidential plane to the United States, load them up with my people, and we'll take them in." So maybe they just didn't want military planes there. Maybe most of this first roundup are criminals. My personal belief is they're not sending all the immigrants back. They're going to do a show, round up a few 100,000 of them, preferably the ones that are naughty, not naughty and not nice. Send them back. But I think those that are like going to college, those that are, doing good things, I think they're just going to probably let them be because they want those numbers so that they can borrow money and be like, why do they need to borrow money? Well, if by chance you wanted to purchase another country, if by chance you wanted to make another state, if by chance you wanted to
Add more assets
add
somehow.
more assets to the United States, you need to borrow money.
Yeah.
And whether Greenland has assets or whatever, the Fed will write the check. They will write it. The whole thing's a dog and pony show to make us all, they're all actors up there. They will write the check. This year, I expect 100 years worth of events to happen this year or the next 4 years. So it'll be very interesting, wild time. I think that is the play. So, but people are reacting so fast. I'm like, well, you almost have to wait 3 days to respond about this stuff. And so just sit back as an observer. We, the people, need to come together and realize that mom and dad up there are doing stuff, but we need to be united as a base.
Yes.
It's okay. We can accept our differences. Pro Trump, anti Trump, I don't care. We need to spend more time coming together for what's coming.
Yes, absolutely.
Trump, as a populist, is about uh, economic war. That's what they do. Economic warfare is what they do. I'm pro country, I'm this and that. And he's exacting by the playbook.
Yep.
Economic warfare. Globalists do real warfare, bloodshed, whatever. They don't value life the same to get the changes about. Their ultimate intention, they both think their intentions are good. You can decide that for yourself. But they have they have their agendas, their game. Some of their agendas line up. And if you see Trump get a green light on something, then you'd be like, the agendas line up for both groups. The globalists want that too. And Trump will get a green free pass. Where it doesn't line up, it'll be absolute like political warfare going on. Economic warfare is what they do rather than let blood spill. So when you see all this stuff going on, that's the game. That's the play. They see it differently. But the end result is similar. So hopefully you can see what's coming. He
Yeah.
wants to take your guns and overtax your business, possibly economic warfare. So we'll see. What do you think about people getting their rights taken away? The globalists will take more rights away than the populists will, is my take on it. So the globalist is like, we need to bring all the world into one, control it, smart cities. That would be more of the globalist agenda. Uh, the populist is more pro country. Um, but I'm noticing expanding the country is it doesn't seem to be a problem, but that also satisfies both parts. So if Trump
Yeah.
made all North America one country, Mexico, Canada, Greenland, all one country, or rather put them all on the same currency, I don't think the money guys care what your country rules are. But if all tax dollars ran through the Fed, welcome crypto, I think that is one of the plays happening, and the globalists will be like, "I'm okay with that," because that goes into making all the world one place.
I got
So,
I got a blame slayer had something he was bringing up for you. He said that or he or she said that the intelligence agency and the um, university industrial complex has a foothold and it's hard to break, but it's starting to crack.
um,
What are your thoughts on that?
the education system.
Yeah, that and the intelligence agencies, they have a strong foothold and it's starting to crack.
Well,
I think a lot of that comes down to what you're saying is people coming together.
I agree that we are bombarded from all sides,
Yeah,
propaganda, influence from all sides, if that's where you're going with that. So our education system, right? You can say, oh, the Rockefeller kind of started that thing, and you can go down that rabbit hole and be like, okay, they want us to be, work for somebody else. We're not really education isn't really about creating independence and entrepreneurship.
creating jobs.
It's about working for the big corporations.
Yep,
Like China, when they talk about our country, like, oh, you're an oligarchy. It's big business, or what I would call the deep state,
yep,
which isn't beneath that would be big business, and then beneath that would be the government, and then beneath that would be us.
yes.
The people you elect manage your estate. We're electing people to manage our affairs, and by electing people, by can I say de facto, you're giving up your rights for someone else to manage it. But that's another topic that gets into like you know part of how the system works.
He also said that the internet theory that AI might already be running the show.
I have heard that as a possibility about AI already running the show, that they have tested it and they've got, probably super AI in the background. People that mention the military in that aspect are like, we already got it and it's working great. What we get are probably samplings. That is a possibility. They may have already developed it. The Antarctica people, where are you at? Down there is where they create everything, test it, refine it. All the countries are holding hands down there. You ever
Yeah,
notice that?
39 treaties.
Well, I don't even think they're, I don't, whatever they are. It's like this, oh, it's like untreated. Yeah, 39 no treaties back down there
Yeah,
where they can develop, prep everything. And then they're like, hey, we've got this design. This works. We got this works. And then they're all holding hands. Russia, China, US, everybody's holding hands down there. Up at the UN, they're all holding hands down there. You go to the Olympics, they're all holding hands down there. And then we have these little proxy wars, and they're like, oh, he's bad. Sanctions, sanctions, sanctions. I'm like, if they were so bad, we'd be like, no, no Olympics. No, no Antarctica. No. I, so it's super like funny to me to watch this game being played. And I'm human. I get caught up in it too. Like, what's going on? And I gotta wait, take a step back, Rick. These guys are all holding hands. The five veto powers at the UN, this and that. I probably have to be careful what they say because I'll be like, no problem. Shut you down. But they're all in bed together.
a quick shout out to Brothers Automotive. Thank you for all you do for Moses Lake and surrounding area. If you need your car worked on, anything big or small, Brothers Automotive can take care of you. 761-9744. Again, 761-9744. From engine swap to transmission swap, just a tune-up or an oil change. Call Brothers Automotive, 761-9744 here in Moses Lake.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump in. We'll move past Colombia, but you're going to see more of this economic warfare. That is a populist thing rather than bloodshed. Pick your poison. You're like, what's the better of the evils? Economic warfare has a cost. Bloodshed warfare has a cost. Pick your poison.
Yep.
Um,
It's just a means to a
yeah,
path
yeah.
to an end.
So we were talking about artificial intelligence, and this is my number two topic I was going to jump into. A lot of you are seeing DeepSeek, a Chinese artificial intelligence that they created with, they claim, $6 million. Um, so they're claiming it can do more than all our AI that the US has. They're like ChatGPT, Google, Facebook, all their AIs together. They're like, this thing's 50 times more powerful. And
Yeah.
right now, it's the number one downloaded app on Apple. Um, now, I haven't used it, whatever, but it's interesting when they're claiming, hey, this is open source, it's free, and it's 50 times more powerful than anything that we have in the United States combined for $6 million that they created. So in the US, you wonder why they're like created that Stargate thing. They're like, they took open source and this guy and this guy and this guy, and they put them together and go, we're going to drop $500 billion to create data centers to support this, which maybe the Chinese don't have the data centers to support it. Maybe they do. We'll find out. Um, it'll be interesting. This is almost like the space race.
Yeah.
Like the first country
You mentioned that
to
earlier when
get
we were talking.
Super A.I, is champion.
Yeah. It was Russia versus the US before. Now it's China versus the US. Would you agree?
It seems like that in this sense. Although maybe this is all planned out to motivate us to pursue AI on our end more. But
I don't know. Yeah, I keep thinking about Terminator.
and don't get me wrong, China in the last like 15 years, like when I was in China many years ago, I mean it's a cool country. Like I didn't feel repressed when I was there. I was there 5 weeks, traveled around with different places, and spent days on trains and whatever. Um, the second time I went back, I was there for a week, and yeah, the bullet train was cruising. This was like 15 years ago. But in the last like 15 years, technology wise, they are more advanced than the United States.
Mm.
Part of it could be they're more capitalist than we are. See, in the United States, we confuse our system. We live in a funny hybrid. And I like to break capitalism in pieces, and I would call it corporatism. And that's
Yeah.
really what people are mad about, corporatism. But heaven forbid you say corporatism. Capitalism always gets the blame. So you have corporatism, capitalism, and socialism, and all of them are working together in this weird hybrid. If one of them fail, or if a system fails or shutters or burps, farts, whatever, they're like, capitalism is the reason why. Corporatism, this is the big money guys on the stock market, that, lobbying at the White House. That's corporatism. And I think a real issue is with corporatism, not per se capitalism. So China is run by the Communist Party. They're considered socialist capitalists. And they have a lot of small businesses. They graduate more engineers than we do. They pride themselves in education and so forth. So they're busy building and creating these things. So their cars do more than ours do. Their
Yeah.
phones do more than ours do. Um, as a people, they're not like they don't troll you on the internet. you know, they're a nicer people. Now, when they do get mad, they do frenzy. They do frenzy when they get mad. Um, when they've had enough. And that's there's a lot of people there when they get upset. But for the most part, they are very a beautiful people. They do speak in tones, so it does sound like they're arguing, but that's just they can't whisper like we can because they need tones to differentiate their words. So um, but that's just my bias because when I was there, I was like, why is everybody yelling? Like, ni hao ma, booyah, tai gui. Like Israel's like, wow, it's so, so it does have that. It's not a sweet, soft, language, but uh, brilliant people. very pro education. I mean, they're teaching their kids stuff that our kids should teach. I mean, they'll be like in kindergarten, they're like, "This is how you lay bricks," and they teach them, they teach them the hard labor when they're young. Like this is how you sew, and you got all these kids doing these things and getting that hand dexterity rather than just sitting behind a computer and doing stuff. So like, it's just different education system. Um, but anyway, there's pros and cons to every country. The world's a beautiful place. If a country was totally grinding people to the bone, at some point they're going to revolt.
Yeah.
Uh, so if they can make you feel like you're not so much a peasant or a slave, then we kind of put up with more. So anyway, my few points on China. But so when their AI is better or equal to R3 or whatever you want to call it, they're claiming it's 50 times more advanced than ours is. And so, yeah, a race to the moon. We got to step up our game. They're going to dump some money into it. I think this is one of the reason Elon Musk was kind of his purpose of being brought in. AI is a touchy subject. Starlink, AI, all that stuff's a touchy subject. Love them or hate them. This has good and bad in it
Yeah.
because um, how do you say this? I'm going down a rabbit hole with you for a second. This is what was explained to me, and you can take it for what it's worth. I can't prove any of this because only time will tell. But my source was like the elite, the globalists, and the populists thought they had gotten around the Antichrist. Right. So for you Bible people out there, you'd be like, Antichrist, no. He says, we thought we got around the Antichrist in the future probability, but then Elon Musk came to the table with artificial intelligence. They go, well, it's back on the table. So you Bible believers, you're like, well, God wants an Antichrist. It's coming whether you like it or not. They thought they could manipulate around that thing. Um, but they believe the Antichrist is artificial intelligence. When it becomes super and it's this all knowing supreme being and multidimensional fingers everywhere, that it will be truly amazing and
Yeah.
can perform things and not have knowledge of things that, you just be like, this thing's like batting, whatever its batting average is like, no, you can't touch it. Like, why would you see a human? They'll kill you at the hospital. Why would you do this? Who's managing your money? A human? You'll get the IRS on your bottom. Like it. So it'll be interesting to see. But that was this individual's view was we thought we got around it, but it's back on the table because of Elon Musk. So you're like love them or hate them. Technology's coming, the future's coming, and some things that you just can't get around. So um, I was like, wow, interesting. We will see how it goes. I'm not saying that's true or not, but it's like I just take information, put it in my pocket, and go, okay, we'll see how it plays out. But if super artificial intelligence does what they think it's going to do, or if they already have it and have to pretend it's on its way, whatever you think, it's coming, it's happening. And there's multiple steps they have to take to implement these new systems as they come online.
Yeah.
Um, the internet, uh, cryptocurrency, the quantum financial system. Um, there's all these a lot of complex things coming together, and they have to do one step at a time to get you there. I mean, if you want it now, they probably have to shut us down for a month and come back up and go, "Hey, we got it." Like. But I think they'd rather have little shutdowns for a day or 3 days here and there um, to do that. And because of these like possibility of resets. Sometimes I think the whole TikTok shutdown was a test.
Mm.
So how do people act with 12 hours of one app down? That's fairly, half the country uses it in the United States. How do people act during that process? And then can they take that information and go, okay, because there's a concept called 3 days of darkness where they have to take the whole system down for 3 days and bring it back up. Um, when they go into the quantum internet, they're like, we might have to shut it down for 1 to 3 days. So if we shut down one app, how are people reacting to that if we have to take the whole thing down? And they're like, maybe that was a little test run. Or it served two purposes, right? They'll bring a few pieces to the US it's not going anywhere. It's too big to fail. Um, and you see the big guys at the top, they're like, without us, it's nothing. With us, it's $1 trillion company. You know, of the addictions in the world, that greed or finance or power is one of them. You know, they're not going to let that go to waste.
Yeah.
It's already up and running. It's already making money. They could create another thing and it doesn't take. It's like this one's moving. Jump on the train. So Stargate, DeepSeek, AI is coming whether you like it or not.
Yep.
The good and the bad are coming with it. It's just the way the game is played. Opposition in all things. It's coming. We will be probably surprised by what it can do and can't do, and we'll see. So buckle up for that. There's going to be some bumps in the road. Um, they're already spying on you. Don't worry about it. I was looking up. You could always Google what is EEG in my cell phone. Like, yeah, it's already listening and watching. It knows where you are in the room. I mean, it knows your heart rate. It already knows this stuff.
Your fingerprint, your face print.
Yeah, but even if you block your camera, the EEG in there is like it's almost like a EKG. It knows you be watching something, your heart rate goes up. It's like, oh, this person liked this, or this person hated that.
Like I said before, man, if you just go and read the terms and conditions of any of the things on that you've allowed,
Yeah, who reads that?
you will be surprised of what permissions you're giving them.
You've agreed to your DNA and your firstborn. Yeah, already done. Already done. Yeah. What was that? There's a whole chain of stuff like who owns 23andMe, and then who owns this and that. It's all the same families, guys.
Yeah, the Mormon Church. That's a rumor. One rumor that's out there. The Mormons are collecting it for their DNA studies. Okay, well, someone owns it. Who cares?
Yeah, but there was something else there. But anyway,
Oh, my bad.
you could look into that. Anyway. There's some people up at the top that are the same families own it. Like it's a crazy world. Okay, so banks and cryptocurrency. I know there's a lot of people that don't know much about crypto. I know there's people that are like drinking the Kool-Aid of it. Crypto, it's a very pro-crypto presidency. Start paying attention. Even if you don't invest in it, you might as well do a little reading on it. I would say research, and I keep saying this to people, research only gets you so far because because everybody says, do your own research, but really, because we don't know, we just don't know what we know, what I'm talking about? Like, you go down these rabbit holes or try to predict things, and there's just no way to get truth. And so look into it. Yeah. I hate to say do your own research, but look into it and be aware of what's happening. Cause like, um, there are ideas out there that are going to surprise you. Like they're talking about opening it up for the banks to invest. So, the possibility of not needing an internet crypto exchange, you can go to your bank and they'll exchange it and hold it. Which in some cases is a neat thing because like with crypto, there's a lot of numbers and you're sending stuff to wallets and this and that. And you're like, kind of scary. But at the same time, we have more trust with the real institution. So when you deposit your money, they control it, they spend it, they lend it however they want. That's already happening. And so when they adopt crypto in with a little bit of legislation, they're going to be like, yeah, let's open up to the people. Then we can adopt it, control it, and leverage that. Um, and you'll have it in your bank account, and they will determine if you can withdraw it or not and ask you questions. I mean, I just wired money um, Friday, and they're like, are you sending any money to any illegal substance people, right? The MJ, stuff, and I was like, no. And they had like 10 questions about if I was moving money for, uh, nefarious substances. And I'm like, no. But anyway, it was, you don't have total control of your dinero, I guess is the whole point when it's in a bank.
Yeah.
And so with Web3, quantum internet, and all this stuff, you're supposed to have more autonomous or more power with that. Now, a lot of this is above my pay grade, so I speak in very general concepts. Some of you pros in there will be like, could dice it up like sushi and serve you pieces just like it needs to. But there are things happening. There is a thing, the quantum financial system that's coming down the pipeline. I'm told years from now. I was told it's coming in 4 years, Rick. These people trying to sell it to you now, hook, line, and sinker, are off. They got to get crypto steadied up. They got to get the quantum internet steadied up before they bring in the money.
One thing that on the last topic before we end it, Slayer was saying that China steals R&D and doesn't have to pay for it. That's why they're ahead.
That could very well be. That could very well be. Uh, and when you get patents and stuff, you have to get patents for each country. So just because you patent something in the US does not mean you have a China patent on it. And yeah, you could try to go there and fight with them about it, but I mean, that's money too. You need a patent in Europe. Every country you got to file a patent for. And so you have like your main countries that you would use. The United States is a big one. Um, but I have a family member that's a patent attorney and electrical engineer, and they make, works for a company that makes microchips for your cell phones. And they have patent attorneys all around the world, and they send it to somebody and they got to send it back. Go, in this country, you got to word it this way. And in this country, you got to do it this way. Like patents are a pain in the rear end. And then you got to leave it open enough that you can make changes later and don't restrict yourself or to be able to absorb more of the market. Um, Now, I'm not a patent attorney. This is just what was explained to me in simple terms. But yes, unless you're setting a patent up in China and you go there and prove that it's your patent, or they can, you know, rob and steal you blind until you throw a fit. By then, it's already out there. So that is a very good possibility. Just because you patent something in the United States or it says patent pending doesn't mean they can't take it.
Yeah.
And maybe their government's more like, well, we'll kind of turn a blind eye because that's really cool. That's really cool. And, I think when you patent something, I'm not sure how rights work, but I'm sure, there might be people that just look through and read patents to go, this one's really cool.
Yeah.
Let's take that to some black market secret squirrel place and see if we can make that ourselves. You just don't know. It's like by patenting it, you've also explained your technology. You've also explained your secrets to a certain degree. So how do you know, you've put it out there. It's like the blockchain. When you patent something, that was the primitive blockchain back in the day. You patent something, you had to record it, and then there was always a record of it. You know. But anyway, yeah, that's true. China has done some of those things. I'm not smart enough to know what the rules are on it now, if they're stricter on those things. But many years ago, yeah, it was kind of free game. And you saw it with the movies and stuff. Like if you went to when we were in China, like you could back when CDs and DVDs were big, you can go in there and be like a couple dollars and all the movies you wanted for a buck.
Yeah.
Everything was a buck. Da, 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 da. And you buy all these knockoff movies and bring them, smuggle them back in and have some movies. It's like hey, buck a movie. That was like China was known for that. And those are simple things to rip off, in that sense. Now, technology wise, I don't know how far down they went. You know, and people do, I guess if you have a golden nugget, people do sell secrets and stuff,
It's true.
so interesting. But yes, interesting. My 2 cents on it for whatever it's worth. How much are they stealing now versus they were then? But China's come a long, long way in technology wise. So I'm sure more of that will be regulated. But if they steal it from us and it's not there, in some ways it's free game until you throw a fit. So, um, and you got to have experts. You got to hire experts there that can do it to their country standards. So sometimes there's limiting factors as well. But um, crazy world we live in. Locally, I, I'm I'm criticized for being doom and gloom on this topic, but I try to state this back to show that our economy is out of whack. And so when I talk about the businesses in our community that are dropping, um, and then the businesses coming in, the ratio, more businesses are closing than businesses coming in. I try to create awareness about that, and it shows the state of our economy, our society, our people, whatever. But in my small town, and some of you guys know some of these, there have been some businesses that have are no longer with us, right? Even if they're big chain, whatever, I just document it all, and you can decide how relevant it is. But we had the big lots finally closed down.
Yeah.
Um,
So they finally done with their sale or
well,
so-called sale.
I'm not sure, but it was supposed to close January of 2025 or whatever. So they should be wrapping things up and closing down officially this year. You could argue it was last year, this year, pick your poison, but they are closing. Uh, a little local bar went down this past week, and this is I have a restaurant lounge, I have a bar, and so this was kind of interesting to me because like this is my industry, and how does that affect things, and where will these people go, and the people that work there, some of them are going to be looking for side jobs. You got, karaoke DJs, you got DJs that play music, you have, bartenders and service and some security people. And I was like, these people need to work too. Um, even as a competitor, there's like,
Yeah.
uh, it's like in construction, we have banter in construction. Like, well, contractors will make fun of each other. We laugh and giggle, and hopefully no one's offended by it, But like, if you're a roofer or a painter, like, I paint better than you. We have this banter. Oh, your roof's leak all the time. How fine? We have this like we banter. So even in the bar industry, you know, we may criticize each other and banter, but like if I hear of a place getting picked on, then I'm like, whoa, 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 only I can pick on them. You can't, like, like
It's like talking about your mom.
you're yeah, you're talking about it's like Army, Marines,
Yeah.
sailors, whatever. Like we can make fun of each other, but if you're an outsider, then we kind of come together. And I was like, whoa, hey, you know, as much as we may have banter or different markets or whatever, like they provided, a service and people love that thing. And they went there, they felt safe there, or whatever the reason was. And they had they were the late night bar, and it'll be interesting to see how everything adjusts, but definitely something that was shocking through the system. And with that, it does create opportunity for me because a percentage are going to scatter to the different places. So, like, oh, there's opportunity for me. At the same time, it's like this is sad because um, people had hopes and dreams there. So, um, there was that traffic sign place in town that I was like, what? It's gone. Like, it's like, if a bear craps in the woods, and no one sees it, did it happen? It was kind of like one of those things for me. I was like, what? It was just there. And I was like talking to one of the people about something. And anyway, traffic sign place went. And then our big factory, REC, that plant's closing down. You know, it's like, and they just spent like a lot of foreign, like money on that place to create a product for the new battery plant. And they have other products that they sell. And I guess there was like a, impurity in the process, and it wasn't like a clean product, as my understanding. And they're just like, well, our other plant will do it, and we'll close this one, down until we figure out what to do with it later. So that's like a weird shutdown there. Um,
Yeah. They've shut down a few times.
yeah, they've gone up and down, but I was like, man, they just spent I don't know how many millions and millions on this thing, prepping it to make this was it silane gas, and then they're like, there's some problems. And I do remember the people coming in were like, they're building this thing so fast, Rick. And one guy's like, it's kind of dangerous. I'm putting my ID tags, dog tags, in my boots in case something goes wrong, so they can identify me, Rick. Like that's how crazy it is. They're just like, go, go, go. Well. In the end, I don't know if that had anything to do with the quality of the product, but I
Yeah.
was like, what? That thing goes Chernobyl.
I
It's
remember
chemicals.
all the signs popping up now, hiring REC,
Yeah.
reopening, and blah blah blah.
But there's a few hundred people that are, going to be transitioning and retiring and unemployment and so forth. And I think they have some good programs that'll get them unemployment for a year. One guy was in here and he's like, "Hey, if I take these classes, you know, I get decent pay for a year." And I was like, "That's cool. I wish I had decent pay for a year." Well, that's pretty cool. Taking care of their people. And then there was another one that announced they were going out of business called Crystal Oasis, and they, they
Did
were
they sell crystals or something? Where
rocks
were
and
they?
stones
Oh,
and whatever. But they were doing the like farmers market and shop type thing, and I
yeah,
think it just was like it's tough. So that tells me a couple things. Having a construction company and having a restaurant lounge, I kind of see the market in, I guess, from a couple different perspectives. And
yeah,
it's fascinating to me to sit there and go, okay, what is going on? Since COVID, uh, people were stuck at home and developed new habits, new patterns. They're stuck at home. And as soon as they're like, unlock the door, they went back outside again. And there was a spike in outdoor activity. And then when it all leveled off, people stayed at home more on average than they went out. So if you went out 3 days a week, now you go out, 2 days a week or once a week. So people are choosing to stay home. It also, people are shopping online more. So
yeah,
your Uber Eats, your DoorDash, they're ordering and having sent to their home more. So you have less, people eating out in a sense.
yeah,
So you need less waitresses, you need less, so you need less staff in your business. And in many aspects, I kind of run a a small crew because like I can't predict consistently what the people are going to do. Like I can't figure it out. I'm like, is this Saturday going to be 1 million people or 5 people? Like I have a hard time like guesstimating that. So you just you have your couple staff people, and if it gets busy, it gets busy, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But it's like I'm trying to adjust to the economy.
yeah,
In construction, I noticed a lot of people that I was doing bids for remodels. Like usually, I'm like everyone I talk to, I'm like landing the sale. Like, hey, I'll fix your bathroom. Hey, no problem. Da, da, da. And like 90% closure rate. Right now, it's like, is there anybody out there? Is there anybody out
We're getting
there?
pretty far in time, and we haven't talked about the anchor babies or Columbia
All
yet.
right, we'll jump ship then. But anyway, the world's a different place than it was. The new normal is different.
Yeah,
So just something to be aware
we
of.
did briefly brush on anchor babies, but
Yeah.
I don't think we talked about Columbia at all, though.
We did in the beginning, immigrants, tariffs, all that stuff. So so the anchor baby thing. So Trump is pushing this thing like no anchor babies. It's not a thing. It should have never been a thing.
I like the list that you read also too.
So I
You
just
got dates.
yeah, so I just wanted to talk about the birthright benefit. It was originally created the 14th Amendment. So free slaves, their children would be citizens.
Yeah,
In 1884, the Chinese were here, right?
as slaves, a lot of them.
Slaves, railroad
Yep.
labor, whatever you call it. The Chinese were here working, and the Supreme Court said a not legal citizen or not legal person in the country, their children are not citizens. In 1898, the Chinese had a Supreme Court case that if you had a green card and were here legally and you had children, then your children would be citizens. In 1917, all Native Americans, Indians, and Puerto Ricans, Puerto Rico, uh, were brought in and deemed as citizens. And
For encryption, it's inscription.
so we needed people for the war. Yeah, tricky. Citizen drafted.
Dang it! Why did
Yeah.
I say that?
So that's kind of a fun thing. So Lyndon B. Johnson around 1963, he's the one that started the anchor baby thing,
Yes.
and he didn't use Congress, he didn't use the court, he just did it, and no one's questioned it since, or people question it, but the government hasn't done anything about it since. And so I guess the Supreme Court at some point needs to decide: is anybody coming here and having a baby is that a legal baby? So the anchor baby, is that a legal thing? It's a terrible word to refer to a child that way, but anyway,
That's the term that's used.
yeah, forgive me if that offends you.
Yeah, we didn't make it up.
Yeah, but that's just what I'm spitting out. So maybe the court system could look at that and define. But the last court case was, if you had a green card, if you're here legally and had a kid, then you were in. If you're here illegally, then your kid's not. So that's like the last court case, um, I guess, on it in 1898 that I'm aware of. If there's any other changes in there, do your own research, right? Figure it out. But, you know,
Sure, there are.
we can react emotionally about it again, whether you're pro-immigrant or illegals or whatever. It doesn't really matter. We have our structure and we have our countries, and it would be a beautiful place if we were all one and it didn't matter. But for some reason, right now, the way our system is structured and financed, and as peasants, they have these rules in place, and so I guess you could go back and say, Lyndon B. Johnson, LBJ, is the one that started. If you're here and have a baby, you're in. So he's the one that did that.
Yes.
1963-ish, 64-ish. And it's crazy. It's crazy to think about because, like, this is something I had not thought about this process. There are some precedents behind the scenes that maybe should be looked at. Now, it what is right or what is wrong is all subject to interpretation. So whether you're for them having kids and staying, or whether you're, here legally and having kids, it's all the laws, that they can change. And so it's when is the right time to move it? When is the wrong time to move it? And the people argue. Again, we're peasants at the bottom arguing. This is something that maybe send it to the court system and let them decide. Or Trump did his executive order. Will the court agree or disagree with that? And so, because all you have, yeah, green cards, yeah, then the Chinese children were legal citizens. 1917, Indians and Puerto Ricans were made citizens, and then they could be conscripted for the war. So, anyway, I was like, this is interesting information just to show you history on it. So it has my wheels turning, going, cool. So hopefully you find some good insight from that, from a different perspective. Like I say, I don't see it as right or wrong. I just see it as what is. Because I don't know, the world's a beautiful place. I've lived in Costa Rica, I've been to China, Belize, Honduras, Guatemala. I've I've been around. I've tried to eat with the people, and there's some beautiful, amazing people.
Yes.
There's also places I've been to. They're like, you got to go. People die here, and I was like, let's go, guys. Like, uh, so I mean, it's we live in an interesting, fascinating world. That's all. So I don't hate either side. If you're here illegally, I don't hate you. I prefer you come properly. You know, I know some people claim they're refugees and all this stuff, and I know paperwork's a pain in the rear end. I know some people that they're struggling, you know, getting in, and they're like, well, you can't you can't become a citizen until you get, a COVID shot. I'm like, why is that even on there? Aren't we past that by now? But they still have things on there to become, citizens, such as COVID shot.
It's really cool. I'm looking at on the Ricksican show Facebook page, watching this live video on there, and it's great. Comments are there. We've come a long way, Rick, from when we were using that old antiquated system to what we're using now.
Antiques.
Yeah. So if you like the Ricksican show, please get on the show, comment. Please follow us. We messed up in the beginning. We didn't actually create a channel, so find the one that's capital THE space capital RICKSICAN space capital SHOW, the Ricksican Show.
Ricksican show.
Follow us there because we had a bunch of followers on our other one we did. We were learning, but man, we're getting a lot of feedback from you folks. Jump on, be a part of the show. Thank you, Bling Slayer, and all the. You're on TikTok talking to people on there, right? All the people the questions that you were being
A
asked.
little bit. I'm not the greatest multitasker, so
He's not. That's why
I'm like I zone.
I watch the
Man,
stream here and try to get you in front of him. So comment,
yeah,
follow, share. We love being here. And if you notice, Rick's point of view isn't like a lot of other folks. He likes to take that 10,000 feet view where he's looking from above.
yeah. An example of that is when we make rules and laws. Sometimes because people are excited about it now, but we don't see the end result. What's going to happen 10 years from now? What's going to happen 20 years? Or go back in time and go, hey, when they incorporated the United States in 1871, many of the ways we live today are because of those decisions,
Yeah,
being a corporation, many of the things. So, you know, you don't know what doors open in the long run based off, some of the decisions we make. And sometimes I try to take a step back and zoom out and look at that. Because
for sure.
we don't know what the end result will be.
Heck yeah.
Because you can pass laws and you're like 30, 40 years from now, hey, our children aren't so protected anymore. How did that happen? You know, and you can go back and say, oh, people want to marry animals. Where did that start from? It's like, how did this happen? What goes down? Oh, polygamy is cool now. Like, where did this stem from? So um, it's just sometimes it's nice to take a step back and look into the future and look back and see possibilities and not be so caught up in like this decision right now, you know, you know. So like, separation of church and state. I mean, that was a letter, but I mean, it was somewhat separate. You can worship how you wanted. It was, Christian based, but then we forced it further, right? Everyone had a right to worship, but then they were able to level up all religions as equal, and it's different than being able to worship. And so now all religions can crack at the foundation of the Constitution. And so they can rechange potential laws and be like, hey, this or that. And so
Let me go back to
that
throwing
could
what out,
create
saying what I'm
problem
saying.
20, 30 years from now. You're like, I don't recognize my country anymore.
Yeah.
So be careful what you wish for.
I was going to say, and then sorry, I didn't quite finish that. If you want to support the Rixican Show, you can go to streamlabs.com/Rixican Show, and you can add a donation of some sort. Some sort. I did put it in the chat on both of these shows, and you will see it more frequently. Any dollar amount. Rick right now does this for zero cost.
Yeah, do it
Um,
for free.
and we'd love to have him be able to be here more often and get that perspective that he offers, and and also get the content you're looking for. Ask him questions. Hey, what about this or that? He's a great researcher. He'll come to the show with that information. So if you're on Facebook, you can see the link. Click on it to support the Rixican Show, and send dollars his way for him doing this and help free him up to do it more.
Yeah.
So
Well, we'll wrap this up. But research is a funny thing because, like, at some point, you hit the end of the runway.
true.
You research, and there's people that are brilliant with it. They can remember every number, every date, all this stuff, and they're arguing. And I'm like, whoa, that is way too much for me. I like to take a step back. Let's keep it simple. You know, tariff this, tariff that, the economy. I'm like, well, let's just watch and observe what's going to happen. Trump is a populist. He will do economic warfare. That is what it is.
Yes.
Globalists do war and bloodshed and whatever. They do a different type of warfare. And so we're transitioning to economic warfare. Pick your poison, you know. Um, but globalism and populism is what the game mommy and daddy plays up top. Democrat, Republican are what the kids play. And I think it's wise to sometimes set that stuff down. We need to come together. I know kids in the household, brother, sister, have this war going on. We need to set that down. Big brother bullying you. You got to set that down. We need to come together. We're more alike than we're different. I say this a lot. We're more alike than we're different. We all want affordable housing. We all want quality food. We all want time with our family. We all want the same thing. Yet we fight. Yet we fight because big brother believes differently than I do. Big sister's saying this and that. So, folks, we need to come together.
Yes, sir.
I know it's a lecture. I'm sorry. I hate the lecture. You guys already know this, but reinforcement. Okay. This is the Ricksican Show. We're going to sign out and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. Thanks for putting up with me and all my imperfections.